From VOA Learning English, this is the Economics Report. India's new government is developing a plan to increase economic growth, which has fallen to its lowest level in nearly 20 years. The government, led by the Bharatiya Janata Party of Prime Minister Narendra Modi, is expected to be more friendly to business. And it has promised greater opportunities for foreign investors. Finance Minister Arun Jaitley recently presented the new government's first budget. The Indian economy has grown at only 5% for each of the last 2 years. Mr. Jaitley presented the yearly budget 6 weeks after the Bharatiya Janata Party came to power. The party is trying to find chances for the 1 million people who enter the workforce every year. Mr. Jaitley said the new budget would set the government on a path to higher economic growth. Indian and foreign investors closely examined the government's first budget. They questioned if Prime Minister Modi could raise business support in the country. He had been popular with the business community in Gujarat state, where he served as chief minister. The government announced several economic reforms to show that it plans to help business. One permits more private investment in the defense and insurance industries. That amount was increased from 26% to 49%. The government also promised a bigger part for private industry in the improvement of roads, railroads, airports, and other systems. It also announced measures to help manufacturing. The government said it will establish a simpler goods and services tax to make it easier to do business across the country's 29 states. For VOA Learning English, I'm Alex Villarreal. From VOA Learning English, this is the Technology Report. Recovering strength and movement after an injury often involves physical therapy. Physical therapists help patients with brain or bone injuries regain control of their muscles. Exercising muscles is an important part of the healing process. Therapists use balls and boards to improve balance, stretchy bands to increase strength, and other exercises. Now, a Polish technology company, Exotech, has developed a robot to make those exercises interactive. The robot is called Luna. It can help therapists choose the best exercises for their patients. Luna also provides therapists with information about their patients' progress. Luna uses electromyography, or EMG, to identify electrical currents as patients bend their arms or legs. Mikhail Mikulski is the Chief Executive Officer of Exotech. He says detecting muscle tension not immediately visible to the human eye can help therapists design better exercises. We cannot see when the brain sends a signal to the muscle to flex or bend. Yet Luna is still able to detect it. Mr. Mikulski says the robot can recognize these signals and causes the movement of the limb as if it were performed naturally. Luna can also make therapy fun for children who often get bored with repeated movements. It lets them play games without knowing that they are exercising their muscles. For example, the patient can shoot a ball. The robot is just a prototype, the first of its kind that has been made. But the Polish company expects to have other robots ready for sale later this year. For VOA Learning English, I'm Alex Villarreal. From VOA Learning English, this is the Science Report. Britain is the first country to permit doctors to use genetic material from 3 people to create human embryos. The process is called mitochondrial replacement therapy, or MRT. Some call it making 3-person babies. The treatment is meant to help women avoid passing certain diseases and disorders to their children. After the British Parliament approved the measure, public reaction and debate was immediate. The therapy could potentially end several severe, sometimes deadly, health problems. But the process behind that goal frightens many and offends others. Here is the science of MRT. A human is made from the genetic information provided by a mother and a father. Almost all our DNA is in the nucleus of our cells. That DNA is called nuclear DNA and makes up about 99.99% of our genes. But about 0.1% of our DNA comes only from our mothers, and it is found in organelles called mitochondria. That DNA is called mitochondrial DNA. Mitochondrial DNA does not decide the color of your hair or the texture of your skin or other features. Instead, the mitochondria are like the cell's power factory, turning food into energy. A small percentage of women have mitochondrial mutations, which could cause severe diseases in an even smaller number of children. MRT would use DNA from a mother and father and the mitochondria from a 3rd person. Critics of MRT say it is the first step onto a dangerous path of human gene engineering. They warn of designer babies in the future. Supporters deny that claim. For VOA Learning English, I'm Alex Villarreal. From VOA Learning English, this is the Health Report. Most people in developed countries have no problems getting prescription eyeglasses. They go to an ophthalmologist, a trained specialist who treats problems and diseases of the eye. They may receive a prescription, which gives the patient permission to buy and use eyeglasses. But in poor countries like Rwanda, it may take a lot more time, effort, and money. Rwanda has only 14 ophthalmologists to serve the country's 11 million people. But now a British-based group is helping up to 1 million Rwandans with poor eyesight. The group is called Vision for a Nation. It will soon start testing new eyeglasses that wearers can adjust or change to improve their eyesight. James Chen set up Vision for a Nation. He says Rwanda is one nation where there is a great need for the glasses, especially among school children. Most of the Rwandans need simple reading glasses. They also might be able to use adjustable glasses. James Chen is the founder of the eyewear manufacturer AdLens. The company produces two kinds of special adjustable glasses. Mr. Chen says they are easy to use and have a wide range of magnifications, which makes something look bigger. He says his company has two kinds of technologies for adjustable glasses. Thanks to the World Bank, Rwandans will pay only about $1.50 for these glasses. But that amount is still about 3 days' wages in their country. Vision for a Nation might also provide a similar service in other countries. For VOA Learning English, I'm Alex Villarreal. From VOA Learning English, this is the Technology Report. Last year, a typhoon seriously damaged Leyte Island in the Philippines. More than 7,300 people died or disappeared. Millions of Filipinos lost their homes and incomes. Many people who fish for a living were among them. They lost the wooden boats they use to earn a living. The boats, or bancas, were made from wood taken from the island's forests. But the forests were damaged by the powerful storm, making it difficult to quickly rebuild the boats. So, the large nonprofit environmental organization, the World Wildlife Fund, is helping the fishermen rebuild their boats. The new boats are fiberglass, a material made of glass and plastic. The WWF says fiberglass lasts longer than the wood fishermen have traditionally used to build their boats. Patrick Vincent Coe manages the Banca's rebuilding project for the WWF. He and his employees are teaching people who fish how to build fiberglass boats. He says the material is more practical and better for the environment. Ramon Binamira is a boat building expert. He says many of the fishermen were worried about using fiberglass. He says they asked many questions about its strength. They hit the fiberglass bancas with a heavy object. They wanted to see if the new boats were as strong as their wooden boats. Fisherman Norberto de la Torre says he was surprised by the findings. He says the new boats are stronger in water than wooden boats. The new fiberglass bancas are now being used only for small-scale fishing. But the World Wildlife Fund says the technology will help the fishermen better prepare for climate change and reduce the need for wood from forests damaged by Typhoon Haiyan. For VOA Learning English, I'm Alex Villarreal. From VOA Learning English, this is the Agriculture Report. The slow food movement is growing in most of the Western world. The movement supports small, local farms. It works against huge farms led by international food and agriculture companies. But the slow food movement is not growing very quickly in Africa. So a group called Slow Food International has named a Ugandan man to help it grow. Eddie Mukibi will work to help people in Africa grow healthy food. Slow Food International plans to create 10,000 gardens throughout Africa. Many of the gardens will be in schools. Mr. Mukibi says he hopes they will teach young people about the importance of slow food. There is still knowledge about traditional crops and planting seasons in Africa. He hopes the garden project will reconnect young people to the land. Mr. Mukibi was a student of the crop planting science called agronomy. He discovered that crops being planted in Uganda were sometimes not right for the farming environment. He says he began to understand the importance local foods had to food security, but local foods were quickly disappearing. These traditional products, he says, are used to African conditions, including poor weather. Mr. Mukibi is trying to persuade political leaders and scientists to support the slow food movement. But he says it is hard. They support big industrial farms that can produce a lot of a single crop. But Mr. Mukibi argues that the problem in Africa is not a lack of food. It is that the food is not reaching enough people. He says people should be working to improve ways of sharing food resources. For VOA Learning English, I'm Alex Villarreal. From VOA Learning English, this is the Education Report. In some ways, the high school girls at the Pretoria Hospital School seem like many other girls their age. But there is a major difference. Most of them will become mothers by the end of this year. South African researchers say about 30% of girls in the country become pregnant by the time they are 19 years old. Only 1/3 of these girls stay in school while they are pregnant or after their babies are born. The Pretoria Hospital School is the only school in South Africa with a special separate program for pregnant girls. 100 pregnant girls are currently taking classes there. Most were forced to leave traditional schools. Sometimes South African schools expel pregnant girls, although the action violates the law. Many pregnant teenagers never finish their secondary education. More than 30% of high school students never graduate because of pregnancy. Dorothy was one student who came close to being in that group. She was expelled from school when she got pregnant. She spent months at home searching for another that would accept her. She arrived at Pretoria Hospital School earlier this year. She says she feels welcome and supported. Rina van Nijkerk is the leader of the school. She says the most important goal is to bring the students up to the right educational level and keep them on that path. She also says there are some attendance problems because of pregnancy-related sicknesses. Pretoria Hospital School opened the program for pregnant teenagers in the mid-1980s. For VOA Learning English, I'm Alex Villarreal. From VOA Learning English, this is the Health Report. Why do we need sleep? Do our brains turn off for the night? Scientists recently discovered that our brains may be just as busy at night as they are during the day. While we sleep, our brains are doing much more than getting ready for the next day. Researchers at the University of Rochester found that the brain may be busy cleaning out harmful waste materials. The researchers studied mice that had colored dye injected into their brains. They observed the brains of the mice as they slept and when they were awake. The researchers say they saw that the brains of sleeping mice were hard at work. Dr. Macon Nedergaard led the study. He says our brains perform two very different jobs. He says when we are awake, our brain is hard at work processing information about our surroundings. But at night, our brain works to remove all the waste that builds up during waking hours. The researchers say the waste material includes poisons or toxins responsible for brain disorders such as Alzheimer's disease. They also found that during sleep, the brain's cells shrink. This shrinking permits waste to be removed more effectively. The brain's cleaning system could only be studied with new imaging technologies. And test animals must be alive in order to see the brain process as it happens. Dr. Nedergaard says the next step is to look for the process in human brains. She says the results show just how important sleep is to health and fighting disease. The research may also lead to treatments that prevent or help fight neurological disorders. For VOA Learning English, I'm Alex Villarreal. From VOA Learning English, this is the Economics Report. Last week, we reported that international economists released a hopeful report about Africa's economy. The African Development Bank, the United Nations Development Program, and the OECD Development Center wrote the report. It predicts economic growth on the continent could reach 5 or 6% over the next 2 years. Economists expect 7% growth in West Africa's economy in the next 2 years. They say oil continues to be a major source of income, but that other industries are also important. Growth in Nigeria is coming from agriculture, trade and information, and communications technology. Manufacturing is helping Ghana grow. Sierra Leone is the fastest growing country in the area because of its iron ore exports, as well as its agriculture and building industries. In southern Africa, Angola, Mozambique, and Zambia are expected to grow between 5 and 7%. Labor problems and weak foreign export markets have affected growth in South Africa. But that country is still expected to grow almost 3% over the next 2 years. Angela Lusigi is an economist and policy advisor for the Regional Bureau for Africa in the UN Development Program. She says many countries are working to balance their budgets, and they have solid financial policies. She says the next question is how to make those improved policies result in growth that helps all of a country's citizens. She says inequality remains a big problem in Africa. Ms. Lusigi says it is important to have growth that affects all people and not just one group. For VOA Learning English, I'm Alex Villarreal. From VOA Learning English, this is the Technology Report. A new study finds Indonesians are increasingly exchanging their older wireless telephones for smartphones. A smartphone is a device that combines a wireless phone and a computer. The Nielsen Research Company talked to 1,900 people last year in some of Indonesia's largest cities. Anil Anthony is an official with Nielsen Indonesia. He says the company's study shows smartphone ownership in Indonesia has increased by 5% since 2012. He says about 25% of Indonesians use a smartphone. There are almost 247 million people in the country. But Mr. Anthony says that smartphone use is much higher in most other developing Asian countries. Uday Rayana is a communications observer in Jakarta. He says smartphone use has become part of daily life for many Indonesians, but he is not sure if that is good. He questions whether time on smartphones is productive. The Nielsen study found that the average Indonesian smartphone user spends more than 2 hours a day on their phones. The study said users talk, go on the internet, or use apps, short for computer applications. The study found women spend more time talking on their phones than men do. It said the most active smartphone users are 25 to 30-year-olds. And it found smartphone use reaches its highest level after the workday ends. A Nielsen report last year found that smartphone usage differs widely across Asia. More than 80% of people in Singapore and Malaysia own smartphones, but in the Philippines and India, less than 20% do. For VOA Learning English, I'm Alex Villarreal. From VOA Learning English, this is the Health Report. The United States federal government considers marijuana an illegal drug, but almost half of the 50 U.S. states have made marijuana use legal, or only a minor crime. People who support legalization of marijuana say some kinds of the plant offer extraordinary help for human health. For example, one kind of medical marijuana is reported to ease effects of epilepsy, a disease of the nervous system. Maggie Selmeski is 2 years old. She has spent much of her life in the hospital. Maggie has a rare form of epilepsy. The condition can cause a sudden loss of consciousness. It also can produce repeated seizures, periods of uncontrolled shaking. Maggie's parents are Rachel and Sean Selmeski. They say they made emergency trips to the hospital many times in the first year of Maggie's life. Doctors used medicines to save her life. But Mr. Selmeski says the drugs also had other unwanted effects. The couple then learned about medicinal marijuana called Charlotte's Web. It was developed in Colorado, where the drug is legal. The Selmeskis lived in Tennessee, where it is not. Maggie's doctors could not legally treat her with marijuana. So the Selmeskis moved to Colorado. They have treated Maggie with Charlotte's Web 3 times a day for the last year. The Selmeskis say her condition improved immediately. They say her digestion and muscle mass improved. And they say she began to smile more. About 200 families have moved to Colorado in order to treat their epileptic children with Charlotte's Web. For VOA Learning English, I'm Alex Villarreal. From VOA Learning English, this is the Education Report. Tens of thousands of Africans are studying in China. The country provides students with financial assistance for education to develop skills that Africa needs most. And the system helps the Chinese make friends in Africa. Violet Bwalia of Zambia is among the increasing number of Africans who are receiving financial help to study in China. She registered at Tongji University in Shanghai in September 2013. The school is among the top universities in the country. Ms. Bwalia had to make changes as a Zambian student in China. For example, the university's restaurant serves only Chinese food. But she likes to cook foods from her country at home. Ms. Bwalia said that she did not know she would see so many people like herself in China. She said the number of Africans greatly surprised her. The young woman said she is excited by the level of development in China. She noted the many roads and tall buildings. She said Zambia does not have many tall buildings. Violet Bwalia will study Mandarin during her year in China. Then she will go to another school to study medicine. Those classes will be taught in Mandarin. Some Africans say language barriers affect the quality of a Chinese education. A man from Uganda studies English in Wuhan, central China. But he says his professors cannot answer his questions because they do not speak English. And he says he does not know much Chinese. Chinese officials say more than 35,000 Africans were studying in China at the end of last year. For VOA Learning English, I'm Alex Villarreal. From VOA Learning English, this is the Economics Report. The United States says its economy expanded quickly from April to June. The U.S. economy grew at a yearly rate of 4%. That is much better than the first 3 months of 2014. During that period, the value of the goods and services produced by the country shrank at a rate of more than 2%. Experts say increased consumer and business spending led to the growth. The expansion appeared to extend across the economy. U.S. exports increased sharply. Businesses bought goods for resale. And state and local governments increased spending. President Barack Obama spoke to supporters in Kansas City in late July. He said the recent economic numbers were another sign that things are getting better. The economic news had little effect on financial markets. Investors appeared unmoved because this was just the first of several reports for the period from April to June. Economist Sean Snaith is with Central Florida's Institute for Economic Competitiveness. He says it is too early to celebrate the economic gains. Sean Snaith says what happens in the final 6 months of 2014 will show whether the recovery will continue. He said the bank risks fueling inflation if it raises interest rates too quickly. The central bank, the Federal Reserve System, changed its opinion of the economy recently. The Federal Open Market Committee makes important decisions concerning financial policy. The committee said it plans to reduce bond buying by another $10 billion in August. The bond buying program has kept U.S. interest rates near record low levels. For VOA Learning English, I'm Alex Villarreal. From VOA Learning English, this is the Agriculture Report. As the world population grows, there is a need for more food, including seafood. The World Bank predicts that by 2030, 70% of the demand for fish will come from Asian countries. The World Resources Institute recently studied world fish production. The group says fish production needs to more than double by the middle of the century to meet increased demand. It says the world's oceans, lakes, and rivers are fished to their limit. And it says more fish must be produced in aquaculture projects or fish farms. Imperial Catfish is a fish farm in Imperial, California. Craig Elliott is part owner. He says the catfish farm is probably the largest west of the Mississippi River. Mr. Elliott says his business ships thousands of kilograms of fish every week to Asian markets. Mike Vellings owns Aquaspark, a company that invests money in aquaculture businesses. He says it is a young industry, but is growing at about 9% a year. Mr. Vellings says China produces more fish on farms than any other country. He says the U.S. represents only 1% of the industry. Craig Elliott says it is not easy to run a profitable aquaculture business. He says it takes years to make money because the fish have to grow. There are also environmental concerns. Nathan Weaver is an environmental activist. He says uneaten fish meal and waste products from farmed fish can be harmful to other creatures. But the World Resources Institute says government policies, technology, and private efforts have led to improvements in fish farms. For VOA Learning English, I'm Alex Villarreal. From VOA Learning English, this is the Technology Report. The end of the World Cup does not mean the end of international soccer competitions in Brazil for 2014. The sport continued in Brazil as robotic teams from around the world sought to win their own championship. Technology students at the University of Pennsylvania were among those taking part in the international event known as the RoboCup. The competition was held in the coastal city of João Pessoa. Watching robots play soccer is similar to watching small children play the game. Their movements on the field are unsure. The players fall down a lot. Jen Chao Lee is a creator of one RoboCup team. He said he tried to make sure a robot can sense the position of the goal, the ball, and itself. He also tried to improve the walking and kicking abilities of the robots. Chin He is another robot team creator. She said the abilities of the robots improve every year. Ms. He praised the United States team. She said its robots recognize the colors green and red. She said the robots also choose their moves on the playing field. She said they do not require orders from their human creators. And she said U.S. team robots communicate with each other. Christopher Akatsuka is a member of the U.S. team at RoboCup. He said RoboCup is a competition of software. And he said the competition is really exciting. The U.S. won RoboCup championships in 2011, 2012, and 2013. The events have taken place in Mexico, the Netherlands, and Turkey. In 2014, Australia defeated Germany to win the competition. For VOA Learning English, I'm Alex Villarreal. From VOA Learning English, this is the Health Report. Imagine forgetting everything you have ever done in life. Jobs you held, a marriage you built, the children you raised, your friends, your travels, everything. For many older people, such severe memory loss is a reality. A man in Tennessee tries to help the old with the pain that can come with memory. Doug Oliver worked as a mental health care provider. He is retired now, but he volunteers at a daycare center for senior citizens in the southern U.S. city of Nashville, Tennessee. He goes there and talks with people about their past. Mr. Oliver uses a technique called guided conversations to help older people remember their past. Guided conversations are planned, purposeful talks. Mr. Oliver says it is important to get patients to connect memories of the past to the present and the future. These connections help a person reach memories that are buried deep away in the brain. To do this, the volunteer uses memories of good experiences and bad, successes and losses. Guided conversations start with memory recovery. But the aim of the talks is not just to remember. Guided conversations also help people regain a sense of self-worth. Mr. Oliver says the people realize through the process that they were and still are important. This helps fight depression in older people. Mr. Oliver says sometimes he thinks about quitting. He has an eye disease and cannot see well. For him, getting to the daycare center and home again can be difficult. But he says he always decides to continue his work. He says he knows he is where he needs to be, doing what he should be doing. For VOA Learning English, I'm Alex Villarreal. From VOA Learning English, this is the Agriculture Report. The future has arrived at a dairy farm near Washington, D.C. A robot there milks the cows. The Woodbourne Creamery is in Mount Airy, Maryland. The cows stand in line for a turn at the robot. John Fendrick is the owner of the farm. He observes the progress of the animals by looking at a computer screen. That is all he has to do. The robot does all the work. It uses a laser to find each teat, the place on the cow where the milk comes out. The robot then cleans the teat and connects it to a milking tube. The robot also tests the milk for possible impurities. If it finds a problem, it rejects the milk. The machine knows to stop when the cow's milk flow slows. John Fendrick says robots change life on a dairy farm. He says they give the farmer freedom. Most farmers must milk their cows once in the morning and once at night. The animals are milked in good weather or bad. But Mr. Fendrick's cows do not follow such an order. They stay in the field until they want to be milked. The robot is always available. Mr. Fendrick does not need to be present. He can watch from his telephone. And he gets reports about the milking of each cow on his phone. The cow milking robot is not low-cost technology, however. Mr. Fendrick paid more than $150,000 for it, but he notes paying someone to milk the cows is also costly. He says he will make up the cost of the robot in 3 years. Mr. Fendrick says he gets about 475 liters of milk a day, and he does not have to touch a cow. And that is a good thing. Mr. Fendrick says he does not like milking. For VOA Learning English, I'm Alex Villarreal. From VOA Learning English, this is the Agriculture Report. China has rejected more than 1 million metric tons of United States corn since last November. The Chinese government says it is not accepting shipments that include Agrasure Viptera, made by the seed company Syngenta. China says it has not approved importing this genetically modified or GMO kind of corn seed. A GMO food has had genes from other plants or animals added to its natural genetic content. America's National Grain and Feed Association says the Chinese decision is responsible for almost $3 billion in losses to the U.S. agriculture industry. Wendell Shaman is a farmer in the central state of Illinois. He also is a past leader of the U.S. Grains Council. He has traveled to China to represent American farmers. Mr. Shaman says demand for American corn used to feed animals is up throughout the world, except in China. He says that country has a very large market for it, but American sales there have dropped to almost nothing. He says GMOs increase the size and quality of harvests at lower cost to farmers. And he says some help the environment because they limit the kinds of pest control needed. Craig Turner is a contributing editor for the online publication grainanalyst.com. He says corn prices dropped when news first spread of the Chinese rejection. He says corn was trading at about $4.20 a bushel at that time. Chinese restrictions have continued, but corn prices have since gone up again. Still, Wendell Shaman says the situation caused mistrust of GMO farmers and grain companies that accept GMO crops. For VOA Learning English, I'm Alex Villarreal. From VOA Learning English, this is the Education Report. Sahnun Mahmood has never lived in Somalia, but the 21-year-old student has helped establish an organization that supports aid projects for the East African country. Sahnun Mahmood helped start and is a director of a student group called Students for Somalia. Mr. Mahmood attends William and Mary College in Williamsburg, Virginia. It is a long way from Somalia. However, his parents were born there, and Somalia is still home to many members of his family. His mother, Filsan Darman, helped start the aid agency Adamiga Somalia in 1987. She says the agency provided food and clothing to Somalis who had fled their homes to escape violence during the Civil War. Sahnun Mahmood became involved in humanitarian projects early in life. He noted that many Somali aid organizations have only Somali members. He says one of his goals was to have every ethnicity and race help Somalia. This year, Students for Somalia and Adamiga are cooperating on a project to fight poverty and increase education. Mr. Mahmood said the groups make small loans to women in refugee camps in Mogadishu. The women use the loans to start or support small businesses. Each borrower is required to have a child in school in Somalia. Each must agree to keep her children in school. Mr. Mahmood says each woman repays the loan by giving the money to her child's school. Mr. Mahmood believes his program provides an answer to many of Somalia's problems. He says young people will not be forced to leave school and work if their mother's businesses succeed, and it will help prevent them from becoming child soldiers for armed groups. For VOA Learning English, I'm Alex Villarreal. From VOA Learning English, this is the Health Report. The sound of a mosquito can mean trouble in many parts of the world, but the bite of a mosquito can sometimes kill. The flying insect can carry diseases like malaria. The World Health Organization estimates that almost 630,000 people died in 2012 from malaria and causes linked to the disease. Most of these deaths were in African countries south of the Sahara Desert. In the United States, scientists are seeking ways to fight malaria. The University of California, Riverside is working to develop a more effective and less costly product to protect people from mosquitoes. Scientists there are investigating the sense of smell in mosquitoes. They found the insects use the same receptor to identify carbon dioxide in human breath and to smell our skin. Ananda Sankar Ray is leading the investigation. He says scientists tested more than 1 million chemical compounds until they found a substance that blocks the mosquito's receptor. The substance is called ethyl pyruvate. He says they found that hungry mosquitoes showed no interest in attacking a human arm because only a few of them could smell it. Genevieve Tukes was a member of the research team. She says it was not easy to find the neurons or nerve cells that recognize both the smell of human breath and skin. The scientists use special instruments to identify the signals that a mosquito's neurons send to its brain when it finds an interesting smell. Ananda Sankar Ray says a product based on ethyl pyruvate may cost less than the most effective treatment now in use. That treatment, called DEET, is too costly for most people in areas affected by malaria. For VOA Learning English, I'm Alex Villarreal.